A high approval rating from the public, says Frank Newport, makes the president more powerful on the stump and more likely to be able to have Congress approve his policy agenda. The opposite is true for a less popular president, says Newport.
Right now, with the president having well below 50% approval rating, that's injurious because it allows people to know that a majority of Americans at this point disapprove of how the president's handling this job, and so that makes it more difficult for the president to try to accomplish his agenda.
But in a highly polarized political environment,
because to get an approval rating above 50% or 60%, you really need to have not only the approval of the people in your party, but you also have to have some approval from independents and actually people in the other party.
And
it's harder for a president to get high approval ratings right now because a significant part of the country who identify with the other party are just rigid now in saying we don't, no matter what he does, we don't like him.
But political brinkmanship did not start with Donald Trump, says Newport. It began with former President George W. Bush and continued throughout the Obama administration. Newport says efforts of any president to increase his approval ratings are hampered by the ever-widening partisan divide in American politics, which is fostering exceedingly conservative or exceedingly liberal congressional districts.
Because we don't have mixed districts anymore, so those districts tend to elect more extreme candidates, so we have Congress represented by more extremes on either sense.
A new media business model infused with emotion is also on the march, first started by the conservative Fox News channel.
And the key is, from a monetary perspective, that emotions drive ratings. And if you have an enemy, you're more likely to be emotional about that enemy and therefore more likely to want to watch somebody who reinforces your opinions.
Liberal cable news network MSNBC tapped into it too, says Newport. But Gallup polls show the trust in politicians and media has dropped. Most Americans favor cooperation over brinkmanship.
The public would rather see our elected officials cooperating more, getting along more, and trying to do what's best for the people as a whole, rather than saying, I cannot compromise, I have to stick to these rigid principles on one side or the other.
The public obviously sees that it is more difficult to move the ball down the field with the current politicizing going on, Newport concludes. Jela de Franceschi, VOA News, Washington.